Today, new details emerged about an affair that happened more than 20 years ago between Governor Gavin Newsom and Ruby Rippey. And that's when she was an aide and he was the mayor of San Francisco.
Now, for the first time publicly, Rippey detailed the months-long on and off again affair with her boss, how it began and ripped apart her marriage in an essay published in Vanity Fair.
In a statement, Newsom's office says the governor acknowledged his role and publicly apologized nearly 2 decades ago when he was still mayor. So joining us now to talk more about this is ABC 7 Eyewitness News insider Phil Matier. Phil, we've known about this affair, and it happened 20 years ago when he was separated from his first wife, Kimberly Guilfoyle. Newsom acknowledged it happened. So why now? And is there anything new to this story that could be bad news for Newsom?
Well, what could be bad news for Newsom is more than just this story. What this story does is refocuses on a time of his life when he was rising like a rock star in American politics after legalizing gay marriage in San Francisco. His own marriage, however, was crumbling. He was drinking heavily, and his behavior was, even according to those closest to him, I recall, was out of control at times. It's not a pretty time in his life. It's one that he acknowledged in his recent memoir that was published, Young Man in a Hurry, but he minimized the most of it. And when it came to even Ruby Rippey Turk, he said, well, that was just a brief one thing, small, not even much to talk about. She, however, is being more honest and owning up to it lasted a longer time, and it was more controversial. And so this to itself may not be news, earth-shattering news. The question is, will other stories from that era start popping up as a result of this?
Yeah, he acknowledges it, but I'm sure he would rather leave it in the past, especially with him, eyeing a possible presidential run. A lot of people in California, Northern California, will know about these things. How would it impact and resonate with people if he does make a presidential run across the country?
Well, that's a good point, because in California, we have one sort of culture. In Nevada, there's a culture. In Iowa, there's a culture. Indiana, and it may not be as open as California's. But I think that everybody has sort of realized what was not said in there was any mention of drugs or that he was tried to coerce her in any way. She says that this was a mutual thing between two adults. It's probably, I've been told by a couple of sources that this may be the prelude to a book by Ms. Turk that goes into not just the affair, but her whole life coming apart and rebuilding of it, and her taking responsibility for it. That could come out when the governor is running for president in those states as well. So it's yet to be determined. And let's not forget that while this is in the past, currently we have federal investigators going over his wife, who was his girlfriend then after Ruby Turk, going over her involvement in various nonprofits. So there is a personal side to the Gavin Newsom Camelot that is not necessarily all that pretty and could be controversial as he goes forward.
And as he goes forward, do you see Republicans using this article to their advantage?
Well, of course, and I wouldn't be surprised if some Democrats didn't hint at it as well. It's not exactly, he's not the only person that may be looking at the presidency. What we have now is the question of is it personality that's going to rule the roost? Gavin Newsom is a star. He is up there. He is in the public eye. He has put himself in the public eye. But the other part of celebrity is, yes, you get a lot of adoration, you get a lot of pluses, but you get a lot of close examination and you get a lot of embarrassing moments. This is an embarrassing moment. But I know that his team doesn't think it's going to hurt him, in part because it's coming out early enough to where it sort of inoculates. And that becomes, people can say, well, that is in the past. That is in the past. Like I said, the question is, do other things come up as well? For example, at the same time, he was around Ruby Turk, he was also dating a 19-year-old model and hostess at a restaurant in San Francisco when he was 39 years old. That raised many eyebrows back then. So we'll see who else has stories to tell.
All right, Phil, it's always great to have your perspective on these things. Thanks so much for your time.